Good evening and welcome to Political Cipher with Q. I'm your host, Quandra Gates, and we're going to have a great show. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We're welcome to Political Cipher with Q. Again, I'm your host, Quandra Gaines, and today we're going to be talking about part 2 of cannabis in the region. So last week, just to give a recap, we talked about the different avenues of how people of color, particularly African Americans and Native Americans, were kind of blocked out of the cannabis process. So tonight we're going to start off by bringing Joseph Gaskins in. Good evening, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you making out?
I am here. So are you prepared and ready to talk about cannabis in the region part 2, where we talk about the finances? And let's bring on Lisa Ellis.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
I see you're bright and lights with all your lights in the background.
It's a season of love, peace, and joy, and I'm in the mood. It's green, so let's grow together.
Oh yes, and let's bring in Mr. Stanley Tucker. Good evening, Mr. Tucker. Oh.
Excuse me. Good evening.
How are you?
Much better now. I'm on here with you guys.
Oh, wonderful. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our questions. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you some time, Mr. Tucker, to eat your food, and then
I want some of that dinner.
I know
you're chewing it. It looks mighty good, Stan.
Well, let me brag just real quick. My wife is a dietitian, nutritionist, and she's a graduate of culinary school, one of the best in the world. So I'm blessed, big time.
Yes, you are.
So now you're making us hungry. Not good. So last week we were going to do a recap. We talked about cannabis in the region and the history of the Maryland Cannabis Program. Yes. So, Mr. Tucker, we're going to start off with you.
Okay.
All right. So in your opinion, what was the history of the Maryland Cannabis Program?
Well, the bottom line is, they started out with medical marijuana, and we, Joe would tell you, we've become pretty adept at getting language and major legislation that's going to support capital.
Okay.
And as you know, in America, adequate capital in America does not work. So you have capitalism without adequate capital in America does not work. So our whole career has been focused on providing capital for small minority, particularly women-owned businesses here in the state of Maryland.
Okay.
And our financing components, we currently have debt, we have equity, as well as surety bonding, and a combination thereof. No other state in the nation has this component. So with cannabis, particularly medical, we actually had language in the bill that says 1.5% of the gross proceeds from medical marijuana would go into a fund to invest back into small minority women-owned business, including those in the cannabis industry. Okay. Well, the language was in the bill. However, unfortunately, one of the members from the caucus, whose name I will not disclose, actually cut a deal that took the language out. Okay. And so that's why we only had a handful of African Americans that got licenses or got in. Those are the folks that had capital. Some of them I know, one in particular, I know they got in. And that's because folks couldn't get access to capital. And as you know, the federal government don't allow, you to, they don't fund cannabis.
Okay.
And so what we are doing now, and I'm sharing I'm actually making a presentation to the caucus maybe in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
About this. And our language essentially says that it does two things. It provides capital not only for cannabis, but also for other businesses, because in our community, we need capital, period.
Right.
Okay. And we're looking at two strategies.
Okay.
Two approaches. One is 2% of the gross proceeds, okay, to go into a fund to invest back into small minority women-owned business, including cannabis. And the other strategy is a tax piece, because based on our research, and by the way, we made a presentation to the Maryland Legislative Black Caucus last week, I think, about this strategy. Okay, in terms of having the language in the bill.
Okay.
And, and when I made that presentation, they had a young lady from, I think it was from Illinois, I think, who passed it as well. And we shared our strategy, and what they have done, they have decided to go the tax strategy way, okay? And what I think what is happening here in Maryland, I think they are deciding to go the tax strategy way, because what we've found out, and when I made that presentation, that a lot of states are doing it, but they're using tax strategy.
Okay.
Okay. So we think what we should do as well, in talking with some of the caucus members, is if that's what folks is comfortable with, then I think that's the way we should go. Okay. Because it cannot pass without the Black Caucus. All right. So we could get them to buy in on the strategy in both the House and the Senate side. I think we can make something happen. I had a conversation the other day with Delegate C.T. Wilson. And it was an interesting conversation, Joe.
Yeah, I'm wondering, how did it turn out?
Well, it was interesting. He was saying that, they want to focus. They don't want money to go off in different directions and whatnot. And I said, CT, you have to look at our language, and we're going to send it to him. Okay. And our rationale for our language is that our folks need capital, period. Okay. And we'll say, we want funds to be used for various businesses, construction, technology, etc. Okay. But we say, but also we want some of that money to be used to help people of color, particularly African Americans, to get into the cannabis industry. Okay. And CT and I went back and forth on that. He said, well, Stanley, strike what he said. He said, we need to make the decision in which direction we want to go. I said, I agree with you. I said, but our language here is pretty straightforward. We need capital across the board. And here's an opportunity where we can use capital across the board, but also in the cannabis industry, which we have a serious problem in getting access to capital, period. But we think our approach can accomplish both. Now, today, I made a call to Melanie's office, Melanie Griffith, because Melanie's going to play a major role in this because of where she sits. And I think Melanie is going to wind up being the chair of finance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because Dolores Kelly retired. So I think Melanie, she was on budget and tax, but I think she's going to move over to finance and be chair of finance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's the word out here. So she's going to be playing a key role because several not year before last, about 6 or 8 months ago, my partners Tim Smoot and I made a presentation before the finance committee about our strategy. Okay, and it went over pretty good. All right. But then there were some changes that happened and within the legislature itself. Dolores Kelly was chair, but she retired of finance, Senate Finance Committee. But last word I had, Melanie is going to be chair, which is great. Okay. Also, another key name in this piece is Senator Brian Feldman. Is also key in this scenario. Brian is for it, okay, and he liked our concept when we shared it with them about 8 months ago. So we shared it with them. So what we have to do is incumbent upon us who's advocating. We need to strategically bring the players that we have relationships with, particularly the African American legislators, and begin to get them to talk to each other. Okay? Right now, I don't think that the Senate side is talking to the House side. Okay? We need to get the House side. And C.T. Wilson, Joe, is playing a key role on the House side, okay? And on the House side, I think the legislation is going to go before Judiciary, and Lou Cleppinger is the chair, okay? And Luke, where my office is located, I'm in Luke's district. I personally have had not have a conversation with Luke because I want to see if we could get the African American legislators on the House and the Senate coordinated with each other. Okay, I think that's our major challenge with this, in my humble opinion. And Joe tell you, I've been working the legislature for 40 plus years. Okay, and what I've seen thus far, and the one folks I've been talking with, is key. Also, Senator, she's from finance. Senator Benson is key. All right. She is a firebrand. Okay. And have a great relation with Joanne. If you know Joanne, you know she can get loud and whatnot, but she can be effective. And I think for us to get what we want, what we have to, we don't want to blow this again. Okay, what we have to do is get the Senate side talking to the House side, South side talking to the Senate. For example, and Jill Carter has our language in her bill. I think it's Senate Bill 692. That's what it was last session. Our language is in her bill. And I recently had a conversation with the person on her staff that's the job is to manage that. I had a conversation with him. Also, this brother, he's a researcher. Last name is Brown. He's a faculty member at Morgan. He's been done a tremendous amount of research on this whole cannabis bill. And one of the other major problems, he's shown that in his research that the dispensaries and what else the other key piece, dispensaries, etc., they have, in Baltimore anyway, they have blocked African Americans out of it. Okay, and he has data. He's shown that. All right, and so I was at a meeting with him about 2 weeks ago, and we need to bring him in because he has the data, he has the research, and whatnot. He was a real solid brother. But fundamentally, what we have to do, we have to get our legislators on the House side and the Senate side to start talking with each other. Okay. Who's involved in this cannabis piece, and to get this legislation, our piece and others, particularly our piece, because we are going for capital. Okay. Now, here's another thing I heard is that in the state's bill, there's some language that's saying, and I haven't seen it. We have to research this. Language that allegedly was supposed to make sure that funds will be available for minorities and women in this bill. So I'm hearing bits and pieces, okay, of what's going on. I think we have to craft a strategy that we get these folks to start talking with each other, the caucus members on the House and the Senate, who are for this, particularly the African Americans, okay, start talking to each other, and specifically the language that goes into the bill, because that's the key. I think that's our task. What language is ultimately going to be in it? That dealing with folks that look like us on the capital side, on the financing side, and how are we going to structure the financing, etc. So we have Dr. Lawrence, I mentioned his last name here.
Brown.
Right. Lawrence Brown. He's researched this big time. Okay. And so we need to get Dr. Lawrence Brown in this and help educate us and help educate the legislators. Okay. Humbly saying, I don't think they are totally educated in terms of the total impact of what this would have on our community. Okay. And if we get left out again, because we got left out of medical for all intents and purposes. I know a couple of folks that got in, Herb Wilkins Jr., and I know Herb very well, but Herb inherited a ton of money from his father, Herb Sr. He was in the venture capital business with me. So that's how Herb got in. Okay. And so I think that's our task, folks. You know, we need to approach it holistically this way. We have the juice. When I say we have the juice, we have the caucus members that can control it, and we can get them to work together, you know, and put in the bill language as well as our piece, what we're talking about for small minority and women-owned business, but also for the cannabis industry.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Did I send you our language, Joe? Did I ever get you our language?
No, you can send it to us and we'll have it. Get it to us.
I think we could do that now because stuff was going on. I'll be happy to share it with you. I'll be happy for the best thinking is folks putting information out. I mean, recommendation and ideas, and I have absolutely zero problem with that. I just want us to get capital, okay? So we can maximize our opportunities in this industry and other industry. That's my bottom line.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. And Miss Ellis, tell us about the history of the cannabis program.
You know, last week we covered a lot from knowing that 64% of Marylanders voted for recreation, but also the impact, the social justice impact, as well as the economic impact that is had from the medical perspective, as Mr. Tucker has just stated, has been unfair. It's not a balance here. And in listening to Stan's analogy of how to move forward, you know, my concern is I love Joanne Benson. I think she's been a warrior on the forefront for years, but to look at the effectiveness of the caucus in securing that our position is strong in terms of ownership and social justice at the same time has not proven to be the case here. And I love the energy of CT, and I think that he can actually drive home this for the caucus. But we also know that we need the outside forces to help demand that the language be supportive of the African American community, and in particularly for investment in cannabis is my particular interest. Across the country, we know that in order there are four main ways to get financed in this industry: private loans, real estate loans, equity leasing, and cash advances, all of which Black people in particularly fall short of. So to be able to articulate that and be supportive of social justice concerns at the same time, they have to go hand in hand. And, I agree with Stan in looking at, we have to educate, do more than just educate, because I believe that a lot of our legislators are well informed, because you have a lot of lobbyists that are dumping a ton of information and money in their laps. What we have to do is to make sure that people show up in Annapolis and demand that not only that the 1%, 2% be put in the bill, but that we deal with the incarceration. We know that the new legislation erases or give the opportunity for those that are currently incarcerated to be able to have those charges expunged, but it does not give them the opportunity to invest or to be a part of an industry that they have pioneered. This is still a very, very new industry. It is still very new. And even though we're behind the 8 ball with medical, having individuals with the capacity to grow a minimum of 2 plants each in their own homes, what would that do to the dispensaries who are having and struggling to get product if you don't have a vertical alignment? And a vertical alignment, I mean that you own a cultivation plant, that you're able to process it and then dispense it at the same time. And for those owners that are able or have the capacity to do so, are not thrilled or eager to distribute marijuana to dispensaries that are not in their alignment. So the industry has room for more African Americans to cultivate and to provide great products to that. And you also still need to look at the ability to do research. I think there's a lost segment here that we're not addressing with medical marijuana, because the need to shove recreational down the throats of Marylanders. However, it's wanted. 64.5% said that they want it. And so here we are. We have to structure the language so that it's understood plainly by average voters, that this is what you voted for. And because you're voted for this, the demographics that voted for that are predominantly in Black communities.
Yes.
Just like the lottery. The lottery, who are the main purchasers and supporters of the lottery? But look at the percentage that actually go back into the Black community. So here we have the opportunity to literally use our power of choice. We are the majority now in the legislature, from the top of the ticket to the bottom. And accountability at the end of the day is going to be key, because you may not have mentioned the names of those that pushed us under the bus, but I would say, usually I don't care. I mean, because literally, if you ask for my vote, then you're asking for my trust. And when you violate that trust, you deserve to be put out there so that you won't come back and say, hey, vote for me again, because Americans have short-term memory.
Yes, ma'am.
That's so unfortunate. But it was someone that looked like us, like they did Malcolm X, that killed us. So I'm saying,
I know you are, and I know she's right on your tongue.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
let me-
no.
let me-
I'm just going to refrain from doing so.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. You know how to say it. Well, look, let me share with you guys real quick. Joe know about this. I have a love-hate relationship with marijuana.
Hmm.
About 20 years ago, I got busted in Hampton, Virginia, for selling two $5 bags of marijuana. Got 10 years.
Woo.
My wife was 8 months pregnant with my first son.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that was tough on a young couple. You know, I was away from my wife and my son for 2.5 years. And here we are today, you know, making it. And how many, there are a ton of brothers that happened to me. Here we are, we have an opportunity to take something that has hurt our community, okay, an opportunity to say, okay, we turn this around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and making work for our community. But at the end of the day, what's always been our pediment is capital.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, white boy locks it up. You understand? And you know, we can't go to the banks to get money.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to find other ways to get capital.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe tell you, we've been working doing this, you understand, for 40 years trying to get capital to our folks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime an opportunity like this comes along, it's incumbent upon those of us on this call to educate our legislators. Okay? And they need to understand that our community is watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that we have to make sure we educate them with the best data, best research data, and our community know, and their constituents know.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm saying, you know, no is not in the process. Not when we have the largest African American caucus in the nation, and going to have a governor, Speaker of the House, Attorney General in the state. If not now, when, folks?
Yes, but you're looking at those that are in the Senate that are in control, technically was not in support of our governor-elect. So that, you know, to drive, and we know the governor-elect is in support of making sure that African Americans are at the table in an equitable position and that financing take place. So how, you know, it is incumbent upon us to make to hold those legislators to support the governor-elect and the lieutenant governor-elect, to make sure that we're holding those accountable with regulatory language and language that would ensure that oversight happens, that we don't just put money into a fund and then it's like pulling teeth or a needle in a haystack in order to be approved for those funds. That's the issue that traditional lending and most institutions now. So you're not mentioned earlier that private loans and private funding was a source of fund, a means to, as an option to fund marijuana program. We know that qualifying for those programs are far and in between for people that look like us.
Yeah.
In the conversation that we've had with CT, you know, we understand that he wants the cream of the crop, that those that have excellent credit, etc. But post-COVID, you know, we're looking at how in the world do you expect a large percentage? You're chopping down a large percentage of those that have the skill set, the experience, you know, to get in the game and should be in the game at the table, but has had survival at the forefront during COVID and otherwise to keep their businesses afloat. So how do we put in language that would not say excuse poor management practices, but understands survival and choices and options versus not being qualified at all? Oversight cities, big regulatory individuals that may be backing state-ran operations. My concern. That's
Well, Lisa, let me respond to that, because you know we've been dealing with this a long time. One of the things strategically that I think should be a part of this is that folks say, Stanley, you guys been doing this a long time and you have a pretty good track record. I say yes, because capital alone is not the answer. Okay? You have to bring around the folks, okay, that also needs what you call, quote unquote, technical assistance. Let me give an example. All right. If you look at the results and look at the data that is independent data, is our data, but independent analysis by this economist from Towson, Dr. Arani. He did an analysis of our data for 10 years. Mm-hmm. It showed that for every dollar the state put in us, the state got $9 back. Okay? So, well, how the hell are you doing that, Stanley? Well, capital is just one part of the component to being successful. Okay? So what we do is we go into a company, all right, and we do a whole analysis of their company. We look at their back office, we look at their marketing strategy, we look at the quality of their people, etc. And we put together a strategy. Not only we bring in capital, what we bring what they call technical assistance. Well, a lot of folks use that term, technical assistance, but there's the quality of technical assistance. Okay,
that's
so
true.
We don't come in and limit what we have because we develop our skill set at our organization. Tim and those guys. By the way, most of the guys in my class in my organization have very, very strong accounting skills because finance, accounting is the basis of finance. And so we have these guys, our folks go in and look at them top and bottom. Look at their marketing strategy, look at their technology infrastructure, okay, look at how they run their business, et cetera, et cetera. And so we take a holistic approach in terms of dealing with these companies. I'm saying we have a proven track record. I'm saying we do the same thing here, okay? We're just dealing with another product, all right? So the model is laid out about how we think the product, the not only the capital, because you just can't give people money and walk away, okay? You have to stay with them and help them maximize how they utilize those dollars.
I worked with Tim on a project for the state that actually took 20 businesses and helped them to gain access to federal contracts and state contracts. The technical assistance that he provided was incredible. A lot of those companies, even though they were mid-sized companies, those that were DBEs and micro companies, he gave invaluable information that did help them to restructure their financial portfolios and ended up landing those contracts. So, I do applaud the technical assistance that your organization is providing. Now, when we're talking about including that into language for marijuana, the language for the legislators and moving forward, it's attached to social justice. It's attached to, it is. Yeah. And because when you do that, though, you're restricting the qualifications, which ultimately decreases the number of businesses that can ultimately participate. That's why I continue to say that we have to address social justice along with economic justice at the same time, at not just not in a normal fashion that we're used to dealing with, because we're looking at a market that has not just new, but has not always been fair to us as individuals.
I agree with you 100%, Lisa, because of who we are and the color of our skin. We have to look at this holistically. So I agree with you 100% in our approach, because when we take that kind of holistic approach, we are bringing a lot more armor to the table.
Yes.
And in an environment where, like you say, social justice and DEI and all of these things, we need to use all of that, to undergird our strategy. We want to call it a strategy. And the reason I say strategies, and you notice we don't use programs. We use strategies because strategies are continuance. Okay. Depending on what the situation is, you may have to adjust your strategy. Okay.
Yes, and looking at Senator Benson, like I said, I love her dearly and applaud the work that she's done over the years. But she was also present during the medical marijuana.
Yes.
And we didn't do too well. The outcomes wasn't so great.
We did terrible.
And when we're looking at Melanie Griffin, again, there's nothing personal, but I'm just going to wait and see, that this is a new day. So, I'm going to bring new energy, new expectations, different expectations.
Yes, ma'am. but I hear you, and I don't disagree with you. I think based on what's happening in America right now, utilizing what's there, okay, and what's driving this whole thing of DEI and for equity, etc., we should maximize all of that because everybody can identify with that. Okay, a lot of people use that, but we want our strategy, our bottom line is to create wealth in our community. Now we have to be careful about that. Because some folks, even black folks, don't want us to create wealth.
That's true.
That was our whole point about the caucus. The Black Caucus in support. We have one of the largest Black caucus in the country.
We have the largest Black caucus.
The largest. And to look at, we had to sue the state to even be at the table. That to me was just unheard of. But to have the Vice President of the United States and Cory Booker that put on air, literally set aside time to address this issue because it's an issue across the country that only a few states are beginning to chomp at it. California is one, Denver is another. I would like to see Maryland's bill, especially given that we're introducing recreation, be the champion of this region. DC has more plants and they're more lucrative, but their new legislation with Proposition 71, I think is going to take away the right for those to give those small guys that are giving away marijuana right now. If you buy a T-shirt, it's going to impact them. So we have the opportunity to create wealth that even our own people don't want to actually see. And I think they don't want to see it because they don't really understand it. So if you break it down, making sure that we're educating our voters on what this means to their communities, not just that you're going to get an investment in your schools that was promised like the lottery, but to look at every other person, have someone that was locked up, impacted by marijuana on some level. I myself was arrested and falsely accused in Prince George's County for possession of marijuana. And literally knowing that I had no marijuana in my system and that it was just an harassment by a police officer that was a rookie that should not have ever pulled me over, that it cost me money for a lawyer and 6 months of going to a class that I should never have been in so that it wouldn't be on my record. So it is very, very personal for me.
I hear you, babe.
As well as for many people that look like me. And I was over 50 when I got pulled over for this incident. So we've got to break it down so that the impact and what it means to us as Marylanders, as Black people, that education, that conversation is what we need to have so that they can show up in Annapolis and make our caucus do the right thing for our people and our businesses.
Well, look, God, this is very, very timely. I am supposed to be getting a date to go before the caucus to talk about our agenda, and miracle. recreational marijuana is one of them. We have other things on that agenda. For example, the state of Maryland has a goal for minority business of procurement of 29%. We did an analysis last year. They left over $1 billion on the table. Okay, $1 billion on the table. All right, and the amount of money that's coming in this state in terms of infrastructure is unprecedented. It's in the billions. Okay, you look at infrastructure, you look at offshore wind, you look at MagLab. Are y'all on top of MagLab? You're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars at the public level and by law. By law, it's written law. They have to have a certain percentage going to small minority women-owned business, particularly minority business. So Maryland as a state is nowhere near maximizing its procurement. That's the whole piece we put in together for West. Okay, this is just this marijuana piece is a piece of just one piece of a much larger strategy, and they all work together in it. And with having West there and the largest Black caucus in the nation, you know, and they're going to give me a date for us to go, or for my partners and I to go, but. You know, they always say I'm a rabble-rouser, but, you know, so what?
you don't want to know what they call us.
I have other people, you understand, with me that look like us that say, yeah, you know, Joe will tell you, I've been fighting this stuff, you understand, for 40 years. But are we going together cohesively? It's not just Stanley Tucker rabble-rousing and whatnot. You know, there are other people out there. You know, and they need to look up more and see more than Stanley Tucker and his team. And we look out there and they see you guys out there, you understand? Together, we all talk on the same page. And I'll be happy to share our Westmore strategy with you. You can see where we're coming from. We are open book. Joe will tell you, we are open book. You understand? And so I think we need to go, and we need to go hard, folks.
Accountability is major, because, you know, the 29% goal to me is a slap in the face. But when you're not holding individuals accountable, 29% is still a lot. And, you know, marijuana is a major chunk in that large scale when you're talking about economic returns. This is a multi-billion, a $3.5 billion industry projected by 2027. And to look at in just 2 years, a few years, that literally your business, it can make the difference with night and day, as well as MagLift. These are two industries that are not only going to impact our local communities, but could take that micro business and create legacy wealth for any business, several businesses. It doesn't have to be just one business. That same individual that we won't name asked me directly. Wouldn't just be happy if just one Black business got through. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, with the percentage, that is really insulting to me. And to know that we're not holding our secretaries, our department heads accountable for making sure that the proper procurement, mid-level managers need to be held accountable. Those career personnel need to be held accountable for reaching that 29% goal.
And
thank you for that.
One of the things we've been sharing with West. We said, West, look, changing up at the top is not going to do it. You had to go down into the bowels of those organizations, those career bureaucrats that have been sitting there, you understand, for generations, keeping our folks out. I said, West, no. You got to put people down into the bowels of those organizations.
Yes, indeed.
And now, when you do that and have them reporting back to you,
accountability is big, because one of the things when Tim Smoot and the rest of us were working with those businesses, it wasn't the department heads that helped us. We had to go directly to those procurement officers, directly to those purchasers, and introduce those companies to them and tell them that, look, we know that you have a goal and to reach, and here are the laws. So we were holding them accountable without the authority to actually do so. We're citizens.
Right.
But the reality is they work for us. We're taxpayers.
Absolutely.
We should hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't have to micromanage, but we do. And unfortunately, until we really begin to help our community to understand the injustices that are happening behind the scenes, we're going to continue to come across as just a bunch of arguing or angry Black folks. And that's not the case at all.
No.
I didn't go into business to just remain a small micro business. I mean, literally, I would like to grow to scale my company to the level of daggone Microsoft. I mean, if that's possible. Right. We know that anything is possible if you remove those barriers to growth. And we know what those barriers to success for Black people have been. We've done the work. We know the research. Now it's holding people accountable during this upcoming legislative season.
Okay.
There's no question about it. I mean, please, because I gotta have you guys with me when we go before the caucus. So they say, they're gonna stand here. Joe tell you, oh man,
only if you share your wife's food with us when we show up.
Well, you just give us a date. You give us a date, and we'll carpool up there.
Well, remember now, I'm an entrepreneur now. So that cost you. Lisa, the money don't grow on trees, Lisa.
No.
Now, Joe, we want to involve Joe, because you and Lisa have been having a really great conversation and putting out highlighting some points, and Joe's just sitting there. So, Joe, you're on.
Yeah, I've been sitting here and I've been listening to them, and they have been sharing some great points. All those points are points that we've gone through the entire time that we've been involved with trying to get this industry to benefit minority business people. And those things that both Stanley and Lisa have stated are absolutely true. But you also have to remember that with individuals, they are tasked with doing something that they're really guessing at. And so this industry is a classic example of that. They already have a pattern that was taught them as legislators before, where they got a script that was handed to them. And they were told basically to follow the script. And if you deviate from the script, then we are not going to fund the projects in your particular area. So play along with the script. So over the last 16 or more years, 16 to 20 years, that's the script that our legislators have been reading from. And we had people who were running the state who were very, very good in terms of controlling Black legislators and rewarding those ones who did as they were told. And that approach is a maybe effective approach for them to move ahead in their under that political positioning that administration. But we've way outgrown that. Too many people have been suppressed in that slavery type of mentality. Now, because of age factors and things have matured and have passed on, when you got new leadership. I know I backed for during this entire session that we've been trying to push this cannabis through. I've been laboring on the many people who were there before, and all of them are gone.
Yeah.
There's a new day, and as Stanley is saying, it is important that we impress upon the new leadership that we have that they have a social and economic responsibility to make sure that people like us who look like them are part of the system. And I do think, really, in my heart, that 90% of the individuals are there. I think it's not just white and black. I've found across the board that even during this particular campaign for gubernatorship,
Mm-hmm.
I found that quite a few white folk were great supporters of West, while
Yeah.
great a few black folk were supporters of Peter Francho. So that's a good thing. But I would like to see more African Americans who are in the legislative positions
Yes.
realize that if we don't get this right this time,
Yeah.
we're gonna get this whole industry up, and we're not gonna get another chance at it.
That's right.
So you will bet that I will be in Annapolis. I'll be in Annapolis with you, Stanley. We will be there, and we'll be pushing our legislators to get there. I've already been told by Lieutenant Governor Eli. He's at different events over the summer, spring. She would come on. She would go up front. She was always say, "Well, Joe is my friend, and he likes this nasty, stinking, smelling stuff, and we're gonna make sure." We're gonna make sure we're gonna make sure that we address African Americans and minority businesses and make sure they're part of the industry. But I do want you to do something with the smell. But the bottom line with her, and she used that as a joke when she would approach and come up to the stage. But the reality of it, I'm just saying this, and the reality of that is that the leadership, effective leadership, gets results.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have Wes, and I'm glad, Stanley, that you are sitting down with him, because he wanted you to sit on that transition team, because in reality, there is nobody who's been in the money game in the state of Maryland who has had the experience that Stan had. I met Stan back in 1981 or 82.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in the game then when nobody else was. And believe me, some of our people who look like me and you have fought to try to destroy him, destroy the business model that he has, basically because they wanted to take what he's doing and to move it to a location that they wanted to move it to. And I would sit down with him. I says, "Look, why do you have to take Stanley's program? Stanley doesn't have enough money for all of us.
Right.
We need 2 or 3 different programs that will provide money. If you really want to do this, empower another program.
Yeah.
There's room in there to empower. Talk to your legislators in your district and have the money, have them work. But what it's going to take is across the board effort from all of us. We can't be operating as Prince George County, Charles County.
That's right.
Portland County. We can't be operating as the delegation of that will be separate from the senatorial component, and each of them having different strategies for approaching the solutions. We have to operate as one, and they have to remember this: they really don't have the expertise in doing this. They've got to look. They have to look at the people who have the expertise, and they have to listen to them once and all. They have to stop, shut up, and listen to people who have the knowledge base that they can get this where you wanted to go. I said this from a social perspective, and social perspective is always good, but social perspectives without proven economic strategies will get you nowhere and get you nowhere fast. So I can take a guy who is on the street corner and he's running a profitable business, but I can put him in by itself, one person who used that strategy that he's using, and I can put him in a system, and he will fail every day. And the reason why he will fail every day is because he doesn't have the technical background and the business background to not run that business and keep that business, or even to show that when he needs to go to somebody to borrow money for that particular business, he's not going to meet the qualification level and have the background to show Stanley that I trust you with this money. Stanley does not loan money for you to lose. So what you have to do is to understand that. So forget about your ego, the fact that you are doing this on the street. You're doing extremely well. You got a market. They're buying your daggone product from you. Think about it this way. If you're going to continue to do this, then you're going to have to bring some experts on your team.
Yeah.
You're going to need some marketing people.
Yeah.
You're going to need some accounting people. You're going to need some legal people. It's not a one-man show. You might be the best grower out there, but you can't do nothing unless you got all those other components attached.
That's right. That's right.
And where Stanley is, we're going to be empowered because we're going to make sure he gets that money. But the banks are not financing it on a federal level because it's illegal. You understand that? Let me repeat that again. On a federal level, this is illegal. They closed. I put $250,000 in the bank for the last 2019 round, and Bank of America sent me a notice saying that since your accounts, we're gonna close all your personal accounts. They closed 4 accounts that I had open. They closed all 4 of them, and I said, well, all 4 of them are not doing business in cannabis. They said, well, we don't want you in the business. This is after I told them that we were going to do cannabis. They did that attack. Okay, now, if I had not told them we were going to do cannabis and lied to them and said it was a regular account, the accounts wouldn't be closed. But so people who are now entering into this stage of the game, they have to understand that it's a different market. This is not a regular business.
Right.
This is not a regular business that you can run. You can set your accountants up. You can do what you need to do. No, you cannot. You have to know the intricacies of the business itself. All right. Now, for a person who wants to get into the business and think that you got $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000, you haven't put together a business plan. You don't know how you're going to market this. You don't even know how you're going to grow it, but think you know somebody who you reach out to. This business is not for you either.
Right.
I don't care where you are, whether you grew 2 plants or whether you grew 20 plants. If you haven't moved it where it can scale up to your competitors who've been in this business for how many years now? Maybe close to 15 years that they've had in the market, dealing when other African Americans have not been able to participate. So unless we get those things right, which include, as Lisa said, was the ability to have all 3 components. The ability to grow the product, the ability to process the product, and the ability to dispense that product. All 3. You're building a system that will fail for you because your competitors, this is capitalism. It's their job to put you out of business. It's not their job to be nice to you. It's their job to beat you.
That's right.
Game. That's what they do. That's how capitalism works.
That's right.
So if you think they're going to be nice to you and they're not going to price fix, that they're not going to not put your product in their dispensaries. If you think that if you're growing and you don't have a processing facility that you control as Black community, you're wrong, because you can deliver all the product that you want, but if I don't accept your product and process it,
Right.
we got
Right.
some issues.
Right, Joe. Right,
You got
Joe.
some issues, Stanley. You got the issues, and
Yeah,
you
right,
looking.
Joe.
You gave me the money, but hey, look, Stanley, I ran into this problem over here where I can't process it. So what are you looking at me? You're not running my business.
Right.
I borrowed from you. You have expectations that you want your capital back.
Right.
Okay. You want what you gave me to, in order for you to be successful as a lender, I have to prove that I can take that money and I can generate more. But without this business having individuals like Stanley there, and we only have one in the state of Maryland, who know financing, who know business, and who know technical, what it takes technically to manage and operate a business, you won't have an effective structure. So that's what we do, and that's what we do through the African American Cannabis Association. That's what we do in terms of lobbying and getting our people to know.
Yeah.
To stop and listen, stop arguing. I know you think you know, but just take time out to listen to some of the experts who've been in the industry,
Yes.
who've seen this, know how it works, and make this system work for those who've been left out.
Yeah, Joe. We have to approach this holistically and look at the ecosystem.
Yes.
Because there's an ecosystem to cannabis, just like anything else.
Yes.
Okay. And we have to have a strategy to embed our folk as a part of this ecosystem, because otherwise they could cut you off at any point.
Yes.
Okay. And listen, here's the thing. We have to understand this ecosystem, and we have to educate our legislators because they don't know. We have to be the subject matter experts.
Yes.
And educate them as to how the system works, guys. But I'm telling you, they don't know.
Yes.
I agree. The application process proves that they don't know because they allowed that to go.
Yes.
But between financing and getting the application process fair and equitable, we're operating at a deficiency.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
why we have to approach it holistically. and so that when we lay out to these folks, say, here's what the deal for. We've done our homework. Here's what the deal is, and here's what we need you all to be committed to.
Yes,
look, those white boys. That's what they do now.
Of course,
that's what they do. They tell their legislators. All right, here's what it needs to look like, and here's the language, Lisa. That needs to go in the bill.
You got that. I think Bruce last week was in front of the language too, but Quandra's giving him his day tomorrow. I think he didn't show up today because he had too many of them treats that he didn't share with us last week that he was supposed to come back and give us a report on.
Listen, I've been knowing Bruce a long time.
The marijuana pizza. We don't know what it tastes like.
Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us because it was a very great, fruitful conversation, a necessary conversation. Thank you, Mr. Tucker. You really laid it out what we need to do and what, as constituents, but as business people, you do need to educate your legislator because they are can be flipsy and flamsy, like our one delegate that we are not going to say, but thank you for that, and we really do want that date so that we can come out support.
Yes, please,
and definitely would love to see what your strategy is. I like the strategy. I'm a business major, so when you said strategy, that just rang right with me. I would like to invite you to come back and let us know what's going on and how we can be involved. As always, Thank you.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike Haney, for saying this was a necessary conversation. And on that note, happy holidays. We look forward to seeing you at our next show where we'll be celebrating Bruce Branch, who's one of our panelists. This comes out most of the time. And on that note, have a wonderful and safe holiday. We'll see you next time.